I was a South Asian kid that was brought up on basically the Sikh principles and values of working hard, of getting a good job, getting yourself set financially, and just kind of having a blueprint of education. And that's kind of how I was supposed to live. I was supposed to get married by the age of 22, have kids by the age of 24, and being financially secure was the number one thing always.
And you decided to become a cage fighter.
Comes Gurdarshan Mangat, and he drives down Tauru.
At the age of 22, I was doing accounting, and I was like, I can't live like this. Like, there's more to life, and life is crazy. I found mixed martial arts. From there, I started with no background in anything, with no martial arts background of any kind, and just started at the age of 22 and never looked back.
Hammer fist strike, it's all over. Gurdarshan Mangat wins on debut. That's a huge win for Mangat. That's a huge win for Indian mixed martial arts.
I started training in about 2007, 2008 in Vancouver. It was after watching Rich Franklin fight Anderson Silva. I found out that Rich Franklin was actually a school teacher, and from that I was inspired because I thought everybody that I was watching on the UFC and such was martial artists that were raised from birth to become those fighters, not knowing that there was a guy that was a fighter on the weekend and a school teacher 5 days a week. I knew that I played a life safe because I overthink everything. Now I stepped into my first fight, but just not even thinking about it, and it was one of the scariest things I've done, and almost every single fight feels the same way. Winning an MMA fight is the highest of highs. It's a drug that you can't buy. It's a drug that you can only earn, and that's what victory is. It's the complete opposite of that is a loss, which is a complete opposite of it. But feeling victory, there's no other feeling. It's hard to describe. It's just hard work for one moment that all comes together, and there's no other feeling like it. For me, it's a different kind of pressure because at the same time, not only am I fighting for myself, I'm fighting to represent and break barriers that haven't been broken for my people. We have been underrepresented in mixed martial arts, but we have also been underrepresented in the kid who was told he couldn't become something. I started this at the age of 22, and it was to prove that if you put your mind and your soul to something, you can become whatever you want. And I know there's so many Indian kids or kids that aren't even Indian that are thinking that they don't have it in themselves, and I was one of those kids that believed that, and somewhere along the way I decided to break that off and decided to become something else, to become something special within my mind and show it to the world that we could become something amazing. Joining with One Championship was one of the best decisions that I've made. It represents everything that I am. I'm not one of those trash talking type of guys. I am all about the humility and the respect of mixed martial arts. Because I live by the values of the Sikh values, which is to be humble, show humility, but be strong in fears and show respect. And those are all the values that One Championship holds, and it's something where I don't have to put on a character, I don't have to put on a face. I get to be my genuine self, at the same time being able to inspire my people, being able to test myself. It fits everything I needed to be. And to be fighting over in Asia, it's one of the wildest things, it's one of the greatest things, and it's some of the biggest crowds I could have ever imagined. Fighting in front of it, and it's everything I ever wanted. I would say my One Championship debut is one of my favorite fights. It's mostly because of, if you know the backstory behind that fight. It's not that I fought the former title challenger, it's the fact that I was literally in the hospital about 6 hours before that with food poisoning. They were ready to pull me from the fight. It was my pro debut in the biggest organization I'd ever fought for, and all things kind of fell apart after the post weigh-in. And the best thing to do was to pull out and just fly back and basically start all over. But something in my heart told me to go ahead. I fought with an empty stomach, with the virus in my stomach, and won the fight and got the knockout in the third round. So if you wanted to see it, you want to see somebody with heart, you want to see somebody that has to fight obstacles, and someone that represents the Indian values of just showing that fierce lion virtue. That would be the fight I would start off with. That's one of the ones that I am most proud of, and it's not so much the performance in the fight, it's what happened before that that led to the performance in that fight. The sacrifice and everything in this game is just unreal. It's kind of like what we call the sweat equity. It's what you have to invest into this. For myself, the amount of moments, the amount of time, the amount of celebrations, the amount of big moments that I've had to spend away from home, from my family, from my wife, that they've had to sacrifice along with me. That is all part of the fight game. That is all part of this. Basically from myself, I knew I would be sitting at six-figure income every single year. I sacrificed that to a point where I was in Montreal with only $40 in my pocket that I was living off of for weeks at a time. I was learning how to just literally live off of a pizza that had to last me the whole week. So going into those kind of situations, being broke, being at the bottom, having nobody to lean on, having to fight through it, and still the only thing you have in the fight game is to stick to your dream and the vision that you believe that you will somewhere along the way make it to the places you have. Those are all the things that people don't see. People see the limelight, people see the spotlight, people see the fame, I guess you can say. But the sacrifice that comes at the price of it is what people don't see. And in the fight game, there's a lot of it. There's pain. There's pain you got to push through mentally, physically, spiritually, on an everyday basis. This isn't just what you see in the fight. This is an everyday thing. You got to sacrifice time away from family for years on end, for months on end. And this is the price you got to pay for this, because you have to believe in a vision and something bigger than all of this, something that's worth standing up for. For myself, it's representing my people. For myself, the only thing that brought me back to take a fight every single time is knowing that there's some kid out there that's looking for inspiration and I want to be able to give it. For myself, I don't need to fight. I don't need to do this any more than I need to do it. I do this for the representation. That's what gets me up every day. That's what makes me push. It's for that kid that's looking for a role model, and that's who I want to be.